So you want to be a VTuber. You got your first customizable model, and it's pretty cool. But if you're anything like me, you have this little worm in your brain that's telling you, oh, what if the outfit was different? What if we could mess with the colors even further? What if I could just really, really go balls to the wall with my design? Well, ladies and gentlemen, through the magic of texture editing, we can do anything. Today, I'm going to show you how. Because if you're also anything like me, you're not good at digital art programs. But you know what I do have? An iPad and $10 for Procreate. So that's what we're doing, baby! So, presently, and what we're going to be talking about throughout the video, is the Senmaku customizable model. And what you're seeing now is with no edits at all. This is all pre-built into the model. This is all unedited assets. And you know, you can get it really cute. You can get it really cute. However, it's always fun to be a little custom. So, through the magic of texture editing, I went from this to this. And isn't she cute? It's nothing crazy, and it's actually not too complicated of a process, especially if you're familiar with Procreate in any capacity. The hardest part is moving the files from your computer to your iPad. So, let's get started talking about that. So as you can see, I have VTube Studio up here, and what we're going to do to find the texture files that we're going to need to send to our iPad is we're going to click this little guy here. We're going to go over here, and we're going to hit Open Data Folder. So here we have all of our VTube Studio models. You're going to click the file that says Live 2D Models, and you're going to find the one that you want to texture edit. In my scenario, it's going to be the Sen Customizable Model version 1. This is technically the 0.5. I don't know why it's saved as 0.4. And here, the Sen model comes with a 2K and a 4K version. I edited the 4K version, so that's going to be the one we click on. A lot of times when there's a change in resolution like that, the layout for the textures is different. So you can't, like, let's say I edit the 4K model, I can't take the textures from the 4K and put it on the 2K because usually the layout is different in the files, which is unfortunate, but good to know. It's good to know. So if you're gonna edit your textures, I suggest doing it in the model you primarily use, because you're gonna have to do it all over again if you don't. So here, we're gonna go into the 4K model file. The texture files specifically will be under this. For those, and as you can see, I have all kinds of fantastical colors and other things on a couple of mine. Those are obviously the ones that I edited, but you can kind of tell for yourself what portion goes to what. Some models come with a guide to tell you exactly which pieces are what. This one doesn't, but you know, if you have eyeballs, I think you'll be able to tell. But also, when in doubt, what I was doing if I couldn't find a piece is that I would take my color dropper and change the piece a different color and then see where I could see it on the model, or if I could at all. So, all of these are PNGs with transparent backgrounds. Procreate can handle PNGs, so really it's just a matter of sending them to yourself. I know some computers are better than others as far as file sharing. Me personally, and because I needed to make a backup anyway, I uploaded this file specifically to my Google Drive, and I was able to pull it from my Google Drive and just open these directly in the Procreate app. So now that we have our files open in Procreate, I took the ones that I knew specifically I would need. I didn't plan on changing anything like the skin highlights of the model or anything like that. I was mainly concerned about the hair, the outfits, and the accessories. So I pulled what I needed for those, and we wanted to open them and keep them as PNGs. That's very important. You need to maintain that transparent background. So let's click on, this one should be easiest to read with what I did up in the corner. So this one is for the lower portion of my top. And as you can see, I have changed that. Usually it's just the base of it looks like this. So what I did is when I imported this and opened it with Procreate, the first thing I did was I alpha locked this layer and I turned off the background color so that way we maintained that transparent background. And alpha lock means that I cannot draw outside of what's already on the layer. So that way I'm not doing anything crazy outside the lines. Sometimes if you draw outside the lines with like these little bits and pieces, it kind of creates some weird lines in other parts of the model that you may not intend to. A little tweak here and there you can get away with, like my lip piercing that I added or my belly button ring. But let's say you accidentally like swipe your hand across your iPad screen and like draw a line where you don't need to. It might be hard to find later if it's outside of the usual layer. So we're gonna set that to alpha lock, and then we add a new layer and we make this a clipping mask. This means that this layer also won't draw outside of what we already have. So, and then you just like add your little pattern and you can draw on top of this. You can also insert photos on top of this if you so choose. This specifically, I had a brush pack for this little leopard print that's really cute. I left the base of it white so that way I could change the colors of my top at will. I have a cat girl and a Miku toggle, and I want that to change colors along with the top, because the top changes colors for those. So I left the base of it white, but then I used an airbrush to add on some shading in the leopard print. Something else to talk about is that you can also edit the outfits to some degree to change the articles of clothing. These originally were a pair of shorts that I turned into a skirt. And how I did that was I duplicated the texture file for this. So originally, you can see that those were very obviously a pair of shorts. But I duplicated the layer and then lowered the opacity so I could draw over it and edit the texture to make the skirt. One thing to keep in mind is kind of like we talked about before, if you draw over the lines of these textures or cross into each other, it can create weird lines and colors in areas you may not intend in the model. So you can take away as far as the boundaries go, but you can't add to necessarily, if that makes sense. So I very obviously made the shorts even shorter and added a trim, but because I was still within the borders of where the original shorts sat, it still worked with the rigging. But if I were to try to like make the shorts longer, or make like a pencil skirt, it wouldn't have flowed right with the body model. So that's just something to keep in mind. So now you're ready to start seeing how it looks on your model. What you're going to do in Procreate is you're going to keep it as a PNG, whether you save that file and send it to your computer. For me, I just emailed it to myself or put it on my Google Drive. And then once it's on your computer, you'll save as, and you'll save in the same location as the folder you pulled it from, and you're going to name it the same as the texture you were working on. So for example, when I wanted to do this little tattoo on the belly, I saved the image as texture 01. And then when it asks you that that file already exists, and if you want to replace it, you say yes. You'll load and unload your model, and how you do that is you literally just hit this little person thing right here, and you literally just click the present model that you're on. Ta-da! And then you can see all of your texture edits. Sometimes, too, you may not like how something moves or how it looks when it's all conjoined together. Do not worry, you can still edit your textures. This doesn't lock anything in place necessarily. You can pull up that file that you were previously working on and making adjustments. For example, when I was making the little tummy tattoo, there was multiple times where I would literally move it 0.5 centimeter, save the PNG, load it onto the model, and then rinse and repeat until it was exactly where I wanted. Same thing for the belly button ring. I messed around with which layer it would sit on so that it would move flush with my rigging in a way that I like. And yeah, it's really not rocket surgery. If you even know a little bit about Procreate, you can make it happen. So, that's all I really had as far as advice. Something else that was really helpful and a really big resource to me while I was learning this is that Senmaku actually has a Discord server. So for the Senmaku model specifically, when you purchase your model, you do get access to the Discord server. They'll verify your purchase before you're let in, but there's a lot of help channels and texture artist channels that really are super helpful. There's places where you can ask questions if you're really not finding anything. If you have any questions, you can also leave them in the comments for me, and if I found the solution to the problem, I'll let you know. But yeah, that's how I texture edited stuff. I learned this in under 24 hours. And it's actually kind of fun. I really enjoyed myself doing this, and I think you will too. So, anyways, that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped.